Happy Easter, one and all, and welcome to Japan. Today we will be in Inosuka City, Mie Prefecture, Japan, as we get our single lap quali underway. 10 drivers today, so a bit light on this Easter Sunday. Let's take a look at how our drivers will get started here in Japan. So take a look at that full map. Right now we have Chensky leading the way in qualifying. We'll hop on board here as we see Let's Get Fiscal retiring from the qualification. Looks like he'll start at the back of the grid for the feature race. Chensky, meanwhile, setting a very nice pace here on those soft tires. A bit cloudy. We are expecting rain for our races. So stop me if you've heard that one before, but we should have some races. We see Vichensky run just a little bit wide there, unless he's disqualified from the quali, and Vichensky still leading the way despite that bit wide there. Will 7A, driver who I'm seeing racing for the first time, also disqualified. Crunchy Trees retires, so we're down to just 6 left in the single shot qualifying. Vichensky looks like he is going to do his best to take it. We will let you know how that goes here as we come around to the end of Sector 2. Sorry, Sector 3, I should say. Yeah, into Sector 3. Into our 1 DRS zone here in the home straight. 18 turns here in Japan. Should lead to a very interesting race with just the 10 drivers today. Hopefully we'll be able to keep it nice and clean. A couple more disqualifications there at the end, including Colin and Nicholas Volkman. So of our 10 drivers, it looks like 5 qualify with times, and the rest are disqualified or did not finish. 4 qualified with times. That's Vichensky will start a pole, then Melon Garden, Word Cloud, Reflection. They'll be our top 4 drivers. And then we have our bevy of disqualifications following that. So that was our qualifying lap as we get underway with the feature. Only 10 drivers, as I said, so definitely points to be had here. That being said, it does seem like Let's Get Fiscal has F2 wrapped up with the absence of Big Baguette. Big Baguette was the only driver who had a chance at the F2 title. Unfortunately not here today, so Let's Get Fiscal will take home the championship for F2. So congratulations to Let's Get Fiscal before we get this race started. I'm sure he'll still be giving it his all out on the track, but Let's Get Fiscal, our 2021 champion F2 Bette Jalle driver. So congratulations to Let's Get Fiscal, who's already enjoying himself an Easter Sunday filled with championships and hopefully a glass or 2 of champagne. So once again, for those of you that are just joining us, welcome to Japan and the Mie Prefecture. We look forward to a great race here on the Suzuka circuit as we will get our formation lap underway with Vichensky leading the way. Looks like our drivers will be starting on medium tires, definitely anticipating some rain here sooner rather than later. 8 laps to be done in this feature race. About a 5.5 kilometer or so track is what we're looking at as we get underway in the formation lap. This is the S section out of the first turn. Turns 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, all part of this S curves section. As we come out of it, this is turn 7 as you're watching here. We take this into what's called the Dunlop curve. Over to the Degner curve, that's turn 8, as you just saw right there. Not much of a break there. Turn 9, heavy on the brakes to the right side. This will take you under the last portion of the track into a very light right turn of turn 10. Turn 11, a bit heavy on the brakes, almost a 180-degree turn. Turn 12, you're really not going to feel it almost at all. and this takes us up to Spoon Curve, turn 13. As you see right here, a little bit of a turn to the right outside. Turn 14 brings you back to the end of the Spoon Curve. Turn 14, a bit of a straight here for sure that rounds out our Sector 2. We go over the bottom portion of the track and come into left turn 15. You can go full on the gas there, but we'll definitely see some action as drivers might overrun that turn 15. Turn 16, 17, and 18 come one after the other. And turn 18 is our final our final turn as we finish up the formation lap, and we get these 10 drivers set and ready to go here in Japan at Suzuka Circuit. Hope it's an enjoyable race. It'll be our final F2 race of the season, so certainly hoping to see a little bit of action here to round out our year. Again, congratulations to Let's Get Fiscal, bringing home the F2 trophy in 2021 for Bette Jalle. As our drivers take their position, we'll wait here for our lights to come on. There's 3, 4, 5 lights, and ladies and gentlemen, we are away in Japan. Let's take a look at what we have in store for us as we come up to this first turn. Drivers getting nice and spaced out. Seems like not a lot of issue here. Couple guys going too wide. I think that's Let's Get Fiscal mixing it up with perhaps Leslie the Twig. And Let's Get Fiscal into the wall, already out of the feature race. He loses his tire. Oh, that's bad luck, as it looks like he brushed up with Leslie the Twig and found his way into a wall. And, you know, not even half of the first lap done, we've already lost our champion. That's Let's Get Fiscal into the wall, losing a tire. And he'll have to wait around for the next 7.5 laps for our sprint race. It's a shame Big Baguette isn't here, because this could have been the beginning of something quite interesting if Big Baguette had made an appearance here on this Easter Sunday. So Leslie the Twig deciding to take his F1 teammate and shoving him right into the wall. That's what he thinks of champions, I suppose. Bad luck for Let's Get Fiscal, as he will DNF this race, coming out of turn 3 and 4 and making a better acquaintance with that turn 4 wall. Good fight here between Lesty and Nicholas Volkman. Lesty takes it a little wide, doesn't even get back on the track, and he will indeed slingshot around Nicholas Volkman. Lucky to not pick up a penalty there. Meanwhile, we'll take a look back at the back of this pack as we see Will and Reflection battling it out. It's going to be very, very tight here through the beginnings of lap 2 as we see Let's Get Fiscal in the chat. Let's Get Fiscal, what happened, man? You locked up the championship and you decided to send it right into that turn 4 wall. Take me through how that went down, buddy. Leslie the Twig still battling with Nicholas Volkman. These two are going back and forth in the early stretches of this race. As we see Vicensky still out in the lead, about a 3.5 of a second lead over Mellon Garden in second. As Fiscal apparently forgot to brake. That's the excuse he's going with, that he forgot to brake. You know, you don't do a lot of braking driving race cars and whatnot, so I can imagine it's quite easy to sometimes forget about that pesky brake pedal. That's bad luck, my friend, as he does take 100% responsibility for the crash. That's very big of you. Going head-to-head with your teammate, Lesty, the Twig there. Unfortunately, short end of the stick. Give it to you, sir, as you found yourself into the wall. Take a look up at Vicensky and Worried Cloud. Worried Cloud having passed Mellon Garden. I guess Mellon Garden might have had some sort of issue, because Worried Cloud passes him no problem, even despite the couple of second interval. Worried Cloud now about half a second back on Vicensky. Still very, very tight with these 9 drivers left now. as Nicholas Volkmann passes Mellengarten as well. These two are side by side here. Mellengarten hits the brake a little earlier than Nicholas Volkmann, giving Nicholas Volkmann the inside 2 pass. So that'll put Nicholas Volkmann up in 3rd so far in this feature race, 2 laps down, and about 5 laps to go, 6 laps to go, I should say. And we have some relatively small intervals here, to be honest with you. Crunchy Trees looking to see what he can do on Colin. Crunchy Trees showing a pretty decent pace in his first couple of races with Bette Jalle, unable to get it done. And Lesty looks like trouble comes in bunches as he finds himself into going a bit wide, losing positions there as he finds himself now at the back of the pack. Taking a look back up at the top, Worried Cloud still about 0.8 of a second back on Vichensky. Vichensky looking to create a little bit of separation here in this F2 race. I'm sure we'll see a pit stop at some point as the rain begins to roll in here in Japan. Worried Cloud definitely cutting into this time deficit. He's down to about 0.3 of a second now. Managing to get right on the back of Vichensky. About a half-second difference. Did have to go a little heavier on the brakes than he probably would have liked. As Leslie the Twig looking to see if he can make up some time after losing 4 or 5 positions by going just a little wide. Vichensky uses the DRS to, or Worried Cloud I should say, using the DRS, and Vichensky looking now to get back by at the beginning stages of this lap 4. Looks like Worried Cloud for now is going to be our race leader as he's doing his best to pull away from Vichensky. Vichensky, of course, not wanting to let that happen, just trying to keep it close enough that he can prep for a pass going into the next lap. Meanwhile, taking a look down here, a bit of a train. We've got Will 7A, Colin, and Crunchy Trees. Oh, and we see that was Will 7A losing it and finding his way into the wall. Lucky to just get wing damage, and Lesty is going to pit for the soft tires. So Will remain in 8th. That's bad luck for Will. Meanwhile, Vichensky's falling back over half a second now back. As Let's Get Fiscal claims that we'll see a P10 to P1 in the sprint. It certainly would be interesting if he can make that happen. He will start at the back of the pack for the sprint section. However, we still have 4 laps of change to go here for the feature portion of the race. Crunchy Trees now on the back of Colin, following Will 7A's overcompensation, we'll call it, where he found the wall, and the wall was not very forgiving. Crunchy Trees looking to make the pass here on Colin. Cuts maybe just a little bit of a corner there, but enough to get the job done, as he will now try to put some space between himself and Colin. Vichensky falling now almost a full second back of Worried Cloud. Worried Cloud looking to put as much distance as he can between himself and Vichensky here in the feature race. As we see Will heading into the pit lane, picking up a 3-second time penalty for speeding. Not what you want to see. And we also just saw Leslie the Twig pick up a penalty. Not sure what that was for, as it blinked up a little too quickly for me to catch. Colin looking to get back ahead of Crunchy Trees. Currently a interval of about 0.8 of a second and losing time, unfortunately. So it's not looking like Colin's going to be able to catch back up to Crunchy Trees, who has some work to do, 2.5 seconds back of Mellengarten. Meanwhile, Nicholas Volkmann and Vichensky about a second back of the driver in front. So it is starting to space out just a little bit. We don't see an interval really a whole lot below a second here, as our closest interval looks to be Nicholas Volkmann on the back of Vichensky. Just under a second currently. and Nicholas Volkmann really cutting those tenths of a second off Vichenski's lead. Now only, about 3/10 of a second back. And he's going to be able to use the DRS here. As we see Nicholas Volkmann set the fastest lap time. Is it good enough to get him by Vichenski? As on the straight, it is good enough. Is he going to be able to hold it out of turn 1? Indeed he is. Nicholas Volkmann going ahead of Vichenski now. These two still very, very close. But Vichenski, who started this race in P1, finding himself back now in P3 with 5 laps in the book, working on our 6th, coming into those S-curve section of the track. Coming up to the completion of Sector 1 are these first few drivers, as Vichenski picks up a 2-second time penalty for multiple warnings. As you can tell, all of our penalties have been short. It looks like we're doing a shorter race today, which is well and good, seeing as how we only have the 10 drivers. Probably not the worst call, as we see Will 7A will retire from this race. So we're down to 8 drivers. So these will be our drivers that will start in our first 8 positions in the next race, flipped from wherever they finish. As long as Leslie the Twig gets across the finish line, even if it's in 8th, he will start at pole position in the sprint section of the race. As we come to the completion of our 6th lap, we will begin our penultimate lap with Rory Cloud leading the way. Nicholas Volkmann about 7/10 of a second back in 2nd. Vichenski falling a little over a 1.5 seconds behind Nicholas Volkmann. Melon Garden will come up in 4th currently in this penultimate lap. Crunchy Trees 5th, Collins 6th, Flexion 7th, and Leslie the Twig bringing up the rear in 8th. And this is probably the race, the bit of competition to watch, I should say. Nicholas Volkmann doing his best, did very well to pass Vichenski with pace and carry that pace on. Now to only be back about a 1/2 second of Worried Cloud. Worried Cloud seeing if he can fend this man off for another lap and a half or so. And Let's Get Fiscal tempting me with a couple of rounds of PUBG after this feature and sprint come to their conclusion. You temptatious man, I just might be able to stick around for maybe 1 or 2 battle royales as we chase the ever-elusive chicken dinner. But now back to this race as we're coming towards the last maybe 1/3 or so of this penultimate lap. Worried Cloud still leading the way, able to build that interval back up to around a second as things start to tighten up, maybe just a little bit up and down here. I am assuming, because of the short nature of this race, that pit stops are no longer mandatory. Let's Get Fiscal, please correct me if I am wrong, but I am assuming that the tires that these men started on can and will take them to the end of the race. As we begin our final lap, Nicholas Volkmann closes it down to about a 1/2 second using that DRS section. And I have been confirmed that I did indeed assume correctly. However, not sure what happened here is Nicholas Volkmann. I look down to look at that chat. Nicholas Volkmann shoots by Worried Cloud. Worried Cloud also picking up a 2-second penalty. So this seems like it's Nicholas Volkmann's race here now. Excellent work from Nicholas Volkmann to pick up the big points. Assuming, of course, nothing crazy happens in this last lap, as Worried Cloud would have to not only finish ahead of Nicholas Volkmann, but also build an interval up over 2 seconds to accommodate for that 2-second penalty. Meanwhile, Crunchy Trees looking to make a little something happen here on Melon Garden. With the penalties, we could have a very interesting podium if perhaps Melon Garden and Crunchy Trees can close the gap in this last lap just a little bit, as Vichenski and Worried Cloud both having penalties could lead to an interesting finish. I'm not sure if it'll be enough with
the gap being about 2.1 seconds for Mellengarden to be able to slip into a podium, but certainly don't rule it out. And then Crunchy Trees, of course, only being back around a tenth of a second, as we see Leslie the Twig also picking up yet another penalty. We'll flip on up to Nicholas Volkman coming across the start-finish line in first place. He'll get the win here in Japan. Worried Cloud second. Chensky for now third. We'll have to see how the penalties come into play, and indeed he will lock up third with Mellengarden in fourth. Crunchy Trees fifth. Colin will finish in sixth. Reflection coming across the line in seventh, and Leslie the Twig will eventually come across the line in eighth. That being said, with his finish here, he will start the sprint race at pole, so it will be very interesting to see what Leslie the Twig has to offer us in the sprint section. It looks like Will 7A will start the sprint section in ninth, and my good friend Let's Get Fiscal will begin the sprint in 10th. Yes, indeed. The penalty not coming into play for Vichensky, but Mellengarden only missing out on a podium by 1/1000th of a second. I mean, the barest of margins. A virtual tie, which unfortunately for Mellengarden goes the way of Vichensky, and Vichensky will take his place on the podium along with Nicholas Volkman. So good work from those three gentlemen up there on the podium as they enjoy their champagne shower. Certainly was an intriguing finish, and very, very close there at the end. 1/1000th of a second is all that separated our third place driver from our fourth place driver. So Nicholas Volkman does indeed get the win. Worried Cloud in second, Vichensky in third, and by the barest of margins, Mellengarden in fourth. Crunchy Trees fifth, Colin sixth, Reflection seventh. Leslie the Twig finishes the race in eighth, and then a couple of DNFs for Will 7A and Let's Get Fiscal. And that's all we have for our feature race. As we get settled in here for our sprint race, now is as good a time as any to go for that quick bathroom break. Maybe go grab yourself a nice sip of water and be back here in about 45 seconds for the exciting sprint section of our final F2 race this season for Bette Jalle in Japan. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Japan as we get this sprint section of the race underway. Here's the rain that we were promised. As you can see, it's coming down, and it will certainly affect these drivers here in the sprint section. Only 5 laps, so Let's Get Fiscal challenging himself for the 10th to 1st. Has a lot of work to do in only 5 laps. We'll have to see how he does. We'll certainly see what we can catch on stream through these first few laps here in Japan. With only 10 drivers, starting to see plenty of action here, especially given the poor conditions of the race today. we see all of our drivers starting on those wet tires, looking for any advantage they can get here in the rain. Certainly won't see blistering pace from our drivers here in the rain, but hopefully technical driving will win the day, as both Pachensky and Worried Cloud disqualified from our formation lap. They will be waiting at our start-finish line for the other 8 drivers to come through in these rainy conditions. Leslie the Twig on the pole here in Japan as we get set to get underway for our 5 laps here. As we see Leslie the Twig and Colin morph through Worried Cloud there as they take their position on the starting block. And we wait for Will 7A and Let's Get Fiscal to take their positions as we are all but ready here in Japan for the start of this final race of the 2021 F2 Bette Jalle season. So buckle up, folks. This is all she wrote. And we get underway here as the lights go off for the final time this season, and immediate carnage in the back as Will 7A, it takes lots of damage here off the starting block. Wow, it almost looked intentional, to be honest with you, as Will 7A goes flying through a few other drivers. Not sure if he just lost it in the rain or what happened there, but certainly slowed down Let's Get Fiscal. That'll make it difficult for Let's Get Fiscal to get anything going here. Meanwhile, the rest of our drivers, minus Leslie the Twig, who's off to a pretty decent start here, very, very tight out of the S-curves portion of the race, as Let's Get Fiscal immediately rejoins the pack here. So hopefully good news for the rest of this race for Let's Get Fiscal. And we have a yellow flag for Will back in Sector 1. Let's see what he's up to, as he's just kind of cruising around, taking his time, doing his thing. Fair enough for him. We see very, very close driving here as Worried Cloud gets the pass done on the right side of Crunchy Trees. We also see Let's Get Fiscal looking to shoot around Crunchy Trees, and indeed does so. Nice work from him. Will is still just kind of doing some drifts, doing his thing. Probably needs to not do that. I think I'll probably stop giving him screen time at this point, as he seems to just kind of be playing fast and loose with it. Let's Get Fiscal about a second behind of Nicholas Volkman. Leslie the Twig, meanwhile, about a second up. Just gotta be careful, Leslie the Twig, as you're coming up on the back of Will here. And he takes that turn maybe a little wider than he wanted to. We see Will and Reflection both retiring from the section, the race. So once again, down to 8 drivers here, as we've already completed 2 of our 5 laps, and about half of our 3rd lap, to be honest with you, as we've just completed Sector 1 of lap 3. Leslie the Twig still out in first, despite what that side scroller there tells you. He still has a pretty decent lead. There we go, as it settles itself out. So he's got about a second and 2/10 lead over Colin in second. Meanwhile, Vachensky's done well to work himself back in the top 3 to see if maybe he can get back-to-back podiums. Let's Get Fiscal, meanwhile, has passed both Melon Garden and Crunchy Trees. Looks like Melon Garden maybe having a bit of some issues in the rain. Let's Get Fiscal about a second back of Nicholas Volkman, as he looks to be much closer than that to my naked eye. Perhaps another bug here, as Let's Get Fiscal really sending it right onto the back of Nicholas Volkman. I'd say he's much closer to about a tenth of a second back. I'm not sure what is wrong with our crawler there. As we see Nicholas Volkman and Word Cloud very, very close to each other. So they go side by side. Let's Get Fiscal also joining that those two drivers, and Crunchy Trees arriving at the back as well. As our current fastest lap is going to Let's Get Fiscal in 1 minute and 54 seconds. Very nice time for him in the rain as he continues to make up time. Currently 0.2 of a second back of Nicholas Volkman. But really, Word Cloud, Nicholas Volkman, and Let's Get Fiscal are very, very close here as we come up into our 4th lap, I believe. It says lap 3, but I believe that's the lap we just did, so not entirely sure what's going on with our bug in the left there. Our front 3 drivers are certainly creating some distance between themselves and the rest of the pack. As Let's Get Fiscal looks to maybe try to get a move done here on Nicholas Volkman, 0.3 of a second back, as Word Cloud has put a little distance between himself and these two drivers. And this might be the chance for Let's Get Fiscal looking to do an outside pass. Not quite able to get it done. Certainly not giving up per se, as he hangs tough on the outside there. Melon Garden looking like he's having more issues. A yellow flag there. Looks like Hild is back in the chat here, rooting for Leslie the Twig. Leslie the Twig looking like he'll have the pace to get it done here in the sprint section of the race. As Let's Get Fiscal still about 0.2 of a second back on Nicholas Volkman, still unable to find a chance to get this pass done. But pretty much kissing tips with Nicholas Volkman. As Leslie the Twig sets the fastest lap, only to be immediately passed there moments later by Word Cloud with the fastest lap. Certainly our tightest interval, so we'll keep it right here. Only about 0.3 of a second between Let's Get Fiscal and Nicholas Volkman, as Let's Get Fiscal thought about maybe competing a little bit, has to back off, as Nicholas Volkman showing off his very impressive defensive driving, and a bit of time in the grass there kind of sets Crunchy Trees up to have a bit of a chance to also get a pass, or maybe even a double pass. We just saw Melon Garden, who just seemingly could not handle the rain today, being disqualified as well. And we are on our penultimate lap, lap 4 of 5, with Leslie the Twig a very comfortable lead. Let's Get Fiscal about a second back of Nicholas Volkman as it starts to widen just a bit more. And it doesn't seem like Let's Get Fiscal has enough pace here in the rain to make up that 10th to first run that he promised us. So instead, it seems like Leslie the Twig, like I said, has this thing pretty much all but locked up. Nicholas Volkmann looks like he might make a play in here at Worried Cloud as we begin our final lap here in Japan, our final lap of the season. Nicholas Volkmann currently about 0.4 of a second back of Worried Cloud. As it should be a very exciting final lap from these three in the fight for fourth place, I should say. As Let's Get Fiscal, Nicholas Volkmann, and Worried Cloud very, very close to each other. See if there's any changes in positions here as we come up to our final section of the race. We just saw Let's Get Fiscal go extremely wide there as he was trying to maybe pick up a little bit of pace, and maybe instead cost him a couple tenths of a second. Leslie the Twig getting the win here in the sprint. Colin finishing in second. Vachensky third. Worried Cloud fourth. Nicholas Volkmann fifth. Let's Get Fiscal sixth. And that is it, folks. That is our final portion of this season's F2 Bette Jalle Racing. Big congratulations to my good friend Let's Get Fiscal, taking home the championship, but of course also big congratulations to Leslie the Twig for winning that sprint race. Started at pole and never really had any trouble, any threat throughout that entire race. Let's take a look once we finish a bit of the champagne celebrations at what kind of intervals we looked at. It seemed like it was very, very tight. Worried Cloud, Nicholas Volkmann, and Let's Get Fiscal, as we see about 0.2 of a second there. Let's Get Fiscal finishing about 0.3 of a second behind Nicholas Volkmann. So excellent work, a lot of fun from me. Congratulations to Let's Get Fiscal. Congratulations to Leslie the Twig, and of course congratulations to Nicholas Volkmann on winning the feature race. So had a lot of fun here in Japan. Certainly hope that you'll join me as we press on in our F1 championship. But for now, this is your man on the mic saying, this is your man on the mic, Ben Silver, saying so long, good evening, and until we meet again next week as we do Japan F1 on Friday. Until then, guys, see ya.